Please rewind this cassette.
Well, I gotta piss. Hold my beer.
I'll hold your beer.
Fuck you. Excuse me. I'm good. I'm good.
Chunk bastard.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you and Lauren used to date? Yeah, a long time ago. I used to be a different guy back then. Was he?
He was less of an asshole.
Thank you, Lauren.
It's okay, I still love you.
So, how have you been? You look a little rough.
Just tired. Having some really weird dreams lately.
Yeah, like what?
Mostly horrible stuff. A lot of them involving Hunter. I don't know. Just, being around you guys, even the ones I just met. Makes it all better.
Hey guys, I can't find my pants.
So I've been getting pretty nostalgic lately. I think everyone has over the last 2 years, just because of everything's going on with the world changing and it being a time of fear and uncertainty. And especially, I feel like a lot of people's life path got turned to another direction, and we're all trying to figure out what side of the road we're going on now. Where we're heading towards. I've been feeling about the 90s, thinking about how they're basically the 70s for what the 70s was when I was a kid in the 90s. And I'm becoming like a boomer. I'm becoming very ageist. Like, I'm just complaining about young people. And I've been thinking about my own mistakes, or, my follies and everything I've messed up on. So I've decided I'm going to start looking back at projects I've worked on throughout the years, and some stuff that only a handful of people even know exist or have seen, and kind of break down through the years how I've gotten to where I'm at now, which isn't the best version of me, probably, but it's the one that I have to work with. So, the first movie that I technically made was in 2010, and it was a horror film, just like a lot of wannabe filmmakers, independent filmmakers. You basically try to do your version of Evil Dead. You either try to do Evil Dead or Blood Simple. It always goes back to Raimi or the Coen brothers. So I was 20 years old and I lived in Pennsylvania. I just moved there. And I had made a group of friends around the university in the town I lived in. I was living at this old bed and breakfast in the middle of the woods. And I had made a large group of friends very quickly, and I had become very close with this guy, Russell, who was a film major and a journalist. I don't think he was a journalist major, but he was a film major, and we shared a passion for filmmaking. So we said we should write a script together. And that's when Hunter started. So Hunter conceptually was a movie that sort of meets The Big Chill by Lawrence Kasdan with Evil Dead. So the idea we had was a group of friends who haven't seen each other for years, but, went to school together, were best friends, but went their separate ways. They gather together for a funeral for their friend Hunter. And then afterwards, they go to one of their friends' houses who still lives in town, and they reminisce about their friend in the past and what happened to it. And then people start dying one by one, and it becomes a question of, is there something supernatural going on, or is there a serial killer? And is this killer the person who killed Hunter? Rick, the main character, who was played by my best friend growing up, Matthew, who had just moved up to Pennsylvania and was staying with me, is having visions of Hunter, sort of like an American Werewolf in London thing, where he's seeing like a ghost of his friend. And I played Hunter in those scenes, mostly because he doesn't really have any dialogue. So we borrowed the college's film equipment. I guess borrowed's the right word. We basically rented it. Russell was able to get it on the weekends out of the film department. And we decided to film it in the house that I was living at in the middle of the woods. So it was a mix of a weird group of people. Some of them were people that I was friends with and were hanging out with. Other people were people I knew back in Texas where I grew up. And then some were just people that were around and I was like, hey, you want to be in a movie? And they're like, fuck yeah, I want to be in a movie. So very foolishly thought I could film a movie in like 2 days. We wrote the script in 3 days, I think, and it was ridiculous, like how sloppy we wrote it, especially how I think about it right now. So basically, everybody met up in town, and then we like drove out. Luckily, we had a van, and we all drove out to make this movie. I'd only made videos with my friends, like YouTube videos at the time. Nobody who was working there had any experience with audio or the expensive camera that we were using. And I can't even remember what camera it was because this was so long ago. But we were using like a high-end tape camera or something like that. I think it was some kind of Sony camera at the time, that had ISO and apertures and you could change the lens, stuff that I didn't have any understanding of at the time. So we start filming late, because it's a night movie and it's all continuous. So we started filming like 10 o'clock at night, and then next thing I know, we're still filming at like 5 in the morning, and we're not even halfway done. And I started to realize, like, oh shit, it's really hard to make a movie, figure out the logistics of things and the setup of things. And I was doing so much of it by myself. Like, I had these, like, big lights that you get at, like, the store that guys have on their trucks and stuff, like these giant lights. And I was putting, like, sheets, like, white sheets tied to trees and stuff to, like, make the light a little softer. And I was looking through the viewfinder on the camera and everything looked good, but the footage, we'll get to that point, but the footage ended up not looking very great. So, this was honestly, without being hyperbolic, the most fun and enthralling and exciting moment of my life. And maybe even till this day, this was the best few days of my life. I was making a movie. I never thought I would be making a movie, and I had people to help me, and we were having so much fun just, like, hanging out, and, like, we were eating like pigs just to keep the energy up, because it was freezing outside. It was October in Pennsylvania, and it was freezing. It was completely unbearable. I made fake blood and put it in these milk gallons, because I had this idea to, have a scene where somebody's head gets smashed in, and my idea was fill a balloon up with fake blood so that when somebody smashes the head in, the balloon would explode. Like, I was thinking scanners or something. So, needless to say, the plot of the movie's inconceivable, the dialogue's horrible, the acting's horrible, and just about nothing in it works. It looks bad, it sounds bad, the story and the pacing don't really make any sense. Now, the sad thing is, when I look back on it, there's actually a good idea there conceptually, which is to make like almost a Ty West-like movie, a drama about friends coming back home that has supernatural elements to it. I actually think that's a good idea. I think doing the dead friend thing and them all kind of having a supernatural experience with the dead friend could be a really cool ghost story. But I didn't see that. I didn't see to keep everybody in a room talking and keep the drama. For some reason, I thought that I needed gore effects, and that I could pull off this really ambitious stuff that I didn't have any of the resources for. So it's a mix of a few things. There's a little Night of the Living Dead too, because it's a zombie movie. Basically, the characters who die throughout the story, come back as the living dead and then try to kill whoever's left. So whatever unknown supernatural monster kills you in this world, you then become a living monster. And I thought that was a cool concept. But it's essentially a movie of a bunch of people running around and screaming and just being mean to each other, and not just like running down the road and getting away. You keep thinking, like, why are they staying in the house if this unknown thing's trying to kill them? Because they keep looking for their friends. There's no pathos. There's no emotional connection. to anyone. I establish it a little bit early on, and then I just throw it out of the window, with just a need to try and do like these set pieces that are fucking terrible.
We're not going back outside.
Oh, what the
Somebody
fuck
get the
was
lights. I'm trying.
Man. Ping light switches upstairs.
Oh, fuck! What the fuck?
Oh my god! There's something in here! Fuck! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh,
Jimmy, you're gonna be okay, man! We gotta get that fucking door open now!
Dude, something's out there.
It's gonna get us in here!
Oh, what the?
You're gonna be okay, man. I'll go outside. I'll try and
No,
get
it's
through a window or
fucking dangerous
something.
out there.
Are you sure?
I got this. You wanna fucking die? Go fucking die then! Fuck out there! Lock the door behind me.
Fuck. We need to get pressure on it.
It's gonna be okay.
God, there's a lot of blood. Fuck. What the fuck are we gonna do? Jim's gonna die.
Now we can't go out there. Whatever the fuck's out there is like a person, but not. I don't know what the fuck it is.
To say the least, they're fucking awful. It's pretty cringe. It's pretty bad. It's a film by a 20-year-old who didn't know anything, and I didn't have a DSLR. It was a different time. So we shoot the movie over like a few weeks, like one day. Like we were shooting it at nights, and it took about a month. And then we still needed to do additional photography later, so we had to get another camera. And then we couldn't format the files onto the computer that we had, so we had to put them on another computer that could take the file, convert them, and then put them on the computer that we were editing on. And we were editing an iMovie, which I would not recommend. We weren't using Adobe. We weren't using Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro at the time was pretty popular. We were using fucking iMovie, which, is just a better Windows movie maker. And we spent weeks on that. Me and my friend Josh would sit there for weeks, and we kept like editing and working on this movie, trying to shape it. And that's when I realized how terrible it was. And I was like, oh crap. I felt like George Lucas when he watched The Phantom Menace. He was like, I've gone too far in a few too places. But stylistically, it was made that way. So why am I talking about this without going into details? There'll be clips played throughout this, and you'll get some context for how fucking shit this movie was. But why am I thinking about this? What is the point? Well, I haven't seen any of the people that worked on that in years. Yeah, everyone that's in it, I haven't seen in years. I still have contact with a couple of them, but it's just life, right? So that movie was the most fun I ever had making anything. It was the least stressful. It was the most exciting. I had energy. I was young. It was just a good time, but it was the worst thing I've ever made by far. Literally, it's just the worst thing I've ever made. And yet, I'm nostalgic for making something bad because I miss the time and when I made it. It's like the experience I miss more than the project. Which is the weird thing about art, right? Are you fulfilled by the end result of the art that you're creating, or are you more fulfilled with the process to get to whatever result you're trying to reach, right? So is the process the more fulfilling part, or is it all about what it ends up being? And there's division on this. Everyone's philosophically different on this. There's some people that prefer the process, and there's other people that feel like they're really good at, elevating something once it gets to a certain level that it needs polish. That's kind of a producer or what an editor does. But I enjoy the process. So it makes me think, does it matter if something is good if the process was enjoyable? Is failure only judged by the way that you perceive it? But I think about the relationships I had with everyone, right? So me and Russell at the time, we were best friends. I thought we were going to make movies together. And that friendship kind of drifted away, And then he messaged me during the pandemic and was trying to talk to me about, regretting things in the past that he didn't help more, especially when we were making that, and it just felt like too little too late. my fiance, my ex-fiance, who was there during the filming, she wasn't in the movie. A year after we made that movie, she was diagnosed with a rare disease called angiosarcoma. And she passed away in 2012. That happened. So I think about that a lot of the time, because I remember being tired after being up all night, and I would go lay in bed with her, and we would just kind of, she would just kind of comfort me and all that sort of stuff and the stress. And then Gina, who was in the movie, who was dating Rocky, my friend at the time, they're both actors in the movie. I ended up dating her later. Later on, me and her were in a relationship for a little while, and then she broke my heart. And then we stopped being friends, and we were really good friends. And then Jeremy, the guy that was my cinematographer, he stole from me, lied, and me and him were tight. And it's just weird because we were all at this moment of trying to define ourselves and who we were, and the movie was sort of about that. But it was the thing that was happening outside of the movie was so much more interesting than what was in the movie, and I didn't learn to take what was going on around me and put it in the movie. Yet the themes of the movie that have come about over the years that make me think back on it have nothing to do with the end result and the quality, but what I learned about myself, or what I think about during the making of it, during those nights, when everything felt like, it was happening, and that I was living a dream, and I had been building up to this moment. But the movie itself, right, is about people who have clung on to the past and can't move on, in particular Rick. So the plot twist at the end of Hunter, this was my genius M. Night Shyamalan thing, was that none of the stuff was real. Rick was the killer. He killed Hunter. That's why the ghost of Hunter was talking to him. It is a manifestation. It's his conscience talking to him, telling him, don't keep doing this. And he's the one killing all of his friends. But I'm lying to the audience, which is the plot twist of that movie, High Tension, and everyone hates the ending of that movie because it's a great slasher film. Then the last 5 minutes, you're like, oh, all of this stuff was fake and this girl was doing it, even though it doesn't make any sense. That's basically Hunter. How did he kill all of these people and do this? Because he goes out to the campfire at the end and sees that everyone's dead, and he screams like Luke Skywalker.
Fuck. What happened to you? No. No. No!
That's the big plot twist, right? Is that this guy, because he can't move on from the past he had with his friends, he has to kill them almost in this preservation, sacrificial, ritualistic way. They all get around a campfire, and then that's where they're all dead. Basically, he killed them around a campfire, and he pulled off this ritual so that he could preserve the life that he wanted, as opposed to the one that he's in right now. And then he's just left alone with his thoughts and the guilt of wanting to hold on to them so he wouldn't be alone, but then because of that, ended up being alone. And that's so true to life. When you're young, you have all these friends and you have free time, and you think that it's going to go on forever. And then you get older and you realize a lot of the decisions you made, whether it be to isolate yourself or to just want more time for yourself, more selfishness, or to be in a relationship and live with someone, you slowly kind of dwindle the people out of your life that you're close to, your friends. Not that you dislike them, you just don't make time to hang out anymore, and you got jobs and you're busy. But you end up being lonely in that sense. You're not lonely in a general way, but in you miss being young and you miss hanging out with people. But if you had the opportunity to do it, you probably wouldn't do it. It becomes a chore. It's like going to the bar when you're 21 versus 31. It feels like a chore. And I had someone ask me once about the past and about missing your friends. And they asked me, do you think about the people from your past, and do you regret, not keeping in contact with them, or do you regret distancing yourself or something like that. And I had to really think about it. I'm like, actually, you don't miss people. You miss what you were in that group at that time, because who you were at that time was a really awesome version of yourself. The guy I was making that movie, even though the movie sucked, but the guy I was that got all of those people together, convinced them to help me, had this location, had this passion, had this energy. That guy I was great. And I can't find that guy anymore. There's a version of him, but it's not that, where, I had such a magnetic thing about me that I was able to manifest this. And I squandered it, but I at least was able to get resources together. I had ingenuity and tenacity. So I think about it, you don't miss the people necessarily. You miss yourself. Even though I tried to lock this movie away and I've only shown it to 10 people, and most of it are the people that are in the movie, right? And I'm ashamed of and embarrassed about it. I had to face it that I'm never going to be that person specifically again. Doesn't mean I can't be a better version. I'm never going to be that person, and I miss him. And it's a strange feeling. I just stay up sometimes. I just stay up sometimes late at night, and I think about moments, gestures, or a look, or something you were laughing at. I remember just little things, and sometimes it's stuff from that movie specifically, where we had a gallon of fake blood, and I was dumping it all over two of my friends, and my one friend was like, "You got it in my fucking ear," which made me think of Fight Club. And we just laughed our asses off about it, and then they couldn't wash the fake blood off. And yeah, is that ever going to happen again? Something like that. Am I ever going to, and if it did happen again, would I feel the same way? Probably not. So, it's a bad movie. It was a good experience. And somehow, because of that, forever from on that path, all of us who worked on that were connected. And then I start to wonder, there's no way that those people that were involved that I haven't talked to for years, sometimes probably they have to think about me and think about making it too. And I wonder how they feel about it. Was it a negative experience for them and they actually thought the thing we made was cool? Or do they tell people, "Oh, I made this horror movie once with this guy"? And that's a weird thing to think about, because you've often locked yourself up thinking that, all of your feelings are internalized, and the anger you have, or the regret, or the missing, and all that stuff, and then it makes you feel like you have an enemy in the world and others. But it's the way people have been contacting me the last couple of years. I've learned to forgive, and I've also realized that everybody is kind of thinking and feeling the same way you do, and you're not alone, even though it feels like you are. And if you think that just because you're not in the place you were, that it doesn't exist anymore, or that you can't get that back, it's not true. It's just more abstract now. And it lives on collectively through the experience that everyone carries on with them. And you all carry it on together. So you're not alone. And that's a very comforting feeling.